If you were a Sonic fan in the late 90s and early 2000s, you'll remember that aside from the games, there wasn't a whole lot of media readily available to enjoy. We didn't have the large selection of toys that are being produced nowadays, there wasn't as many different comic series, and the thought of a Sonic movie hitting the big screen wasn't even a realistic idea at the time. When I was growing up, the issue I always faced was the lack of Sonic cartoons. The popular Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic SatAM weren't airing on TV at the time, so it limited my viewing experience to VHS tapes, which only contained a couple episodes each, and I was just a kid, so I couldn't go to the store to rent a new tape. It didn't seem like Sonic animation was something I could get my hands on, until my dad sent away for a VHS that would blow my mind. It wasn't just a Sonic cartoon, it was a full-length animated Sonic movie. This is Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, more commonly referred to as the Sonic OVA. It was originally released in Japan as a two-part direct-to-VHS series, but was later dubbed in English and released for the US in 1999. This was unlike anything I had ever seen Sonic in before, and I still enjoy the movie to this day. However, among all of the action scenes and cool visuals, there's something rather interesting with a few of the scenes, which I didn't catch at all as a kid, and looking at it now as an adult, I'm shocked they were included in this thing at all. We've looked at some weird or off-brand Nintendo things before, but nothing in the realm of Sonic. Well, today we have our first controversial Sonic topic, because hidden throughout the Sonic OVA are some really weird scenes, which is not something you'd expect from the Sonic series at all. One of the less blatant scenes that I totally missed as a kid is during a segment where a character named Sarah imagines a future where she marries Robotnik. The stationary image depicts a rather normal-looking Robotnik, but Sarah is dressed more like a housewife. What's weird about this though is that she appears to be pregnant with a larger stomach and most notably is seen breastfeeding one of their Robotnik looking babies. You can see the yellow of her shirt covering part of her chest, but the other part is missing, and this is definitely close enough to the baby where it's depicted as breastfeeding. This isn't a particularly strange scene as those are pretty normal things to do, but it's just weird seeing a Sonic character within the universe depicted like this, especially when it involves being married to Robotnik. The next scene to take a look at is a little more blatant and comes shortly after Sarah imagines her future with Robotnik. Sonic and Metal are on the ground fighting when they dart up into the air. They collide with Robotnik's ship, where Sonic lands on the front and Metal breaks through the bottom. Only his head is visible when it appears right in front of Sarah, to which she accuses Metal of being a pervert while pulling down her dress as if Metal was trying to look. I don't think I knew exactly what was going on in this scene as a kid, but based on the context, I figured it had some other meaning. Again, this isn't really too extreme as far as anime goes, but I can't recall any other time in the series someone was called a pervert, so it's pretty striking to hear in a Sonic animation. Shortly after Metal Sonic gets called a pervert, an action scene plays out where Sarah falls from Robotnik's ship and gets caught by Knuckles on the ground. Meanwhile, Tails' ship gets shot down, where he too falls and collides with Knuckles and Sarah. They all roll together in a giant snowball, which eventually crashes and leads to the next surprising scene. When the snow clears, Knuckles and Sarah are seen on the ground, but Tails is seen holding onto Sarah's breasts. What's more is that Knuckles even calls out Tails as he blushes.
Tails, get off!
I'm so sorry.
I never thought you'd stoop that low.
This scene confused me to no end when I was a kid, because I could not figure out what Knuckles meant or why Tails was blushing. Eventually I believed it was in reference to Tails' flying solo that he crashed into them, but it really means Knuckles is disappointed that Tails would grab Sarah's chest like that. Even watching this scene now, I can't tell if it's implied Tails did that intentionally, or if it was an accident. Continuing on, there's an honorable mention that I want to point out. While it's not really innuendo, there's a rather infamous scene earlier on in the movie with Metal Robotnik. Sonic and Tails are seen taunting the mech by making different gestures. Tails is just making a goofy face, but Sonic is holding up a finger. It was commonly believed that this was Sonic's middle finger, which means he's essentially telling Robotnik F you. Contrary to popular belief, this is not his middle finger, but actually his index finger, as Sonic is known to pose with. There are some early releases of this OVA, with the finger having been edited to make it more apparent that it's the index one being raised. Finally, the last surprising innuendo scene that I want to point out is arguably the most off-brand Sonic moment to ever exist, and takes Tails' scene with Sarah to the next level. Shortly after the index finger scene, Sonic and crew meet Robotnik at Robotropolis, where Metal Robotnik makes a second appearance. It's only a facade though, as the mech is totally destroyed. It begins to break and fall apart when two voices can be heard arguing in the rubble. It's Robotnik and Sarah, who are having an argument. And while they're never seen during this portion, it's the dialogue that's really, really strange. Have a listen to what they say.
I'm sorry. They are nice.
If you can't quite make it out, Sarah says, "Just where do you think you're putting your hands?" To which Robotnik replies, "It was an accident," followed by, "Well, they are nice." What this scene implies is that Robotnik holds onto Sarah's breasts in a way similar to Tails, although claims it's an accident, yet still makes the comment that her chest is nice. To recap, Robotnik grabs Sarah's breasts. Tails grabs Sarah's breasts. Metal Sonic is a pervert for looking up Sarah's dress. Sarah breastfeeds a baby and looks pregnant. This happens in an official piece of Sonic media, and one that I watched as a kid nonetheless. Other than this OVA, Sarah's only other appearance in the Sonic universe is a brief mention in a comic book years later, so I'm starting to think that she only existed in this movie as a source of all these fan service jokes. I know these kinds of jokes are common in anime, especially back from the 90s, but I can't be the only one who thinks their inclusion in this way is just weird. There were a lot of rumors about which scenes were edited for which release, with some claims that they were removed altogether, but documentation on the release of this movie is pretty poor. There was even a version that came bundled with Sonic Advance. Whichever way you look at it, the existence of these scenes is a product of its time, and it's something we'll probably never see again within the Sonic universe.